Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to Cinema Chazzy, the segment on this channel where I review the many movies that I watch over the years, whether they're old or new or modern or classic. I'm aware that some of those words are synonyms, they mean the same thing, but I just can't stop saying it because it's my intro. I'm used to it at this point, you know. This is going to be my first movie review of 2024, and if you guys have been paying attention to my channel lately, I've been doing some baseball related content, right? Playing MLB The Show 23, and I did a video about Babe Ruth some time ago. So of course, if you know how my channel works, you know I'm very thematic sometimes. I'm going to be reviewing a baseball related movie today, which is called A League of Their Own. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, whether sports related or otherwise. It was released in 1992, and it's basically a sports comedy drama, a fictionalized account of the real life All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, or the AAGPBL for short, which even though it's short, it's still a mouthful, Very awesome ensemble cast as well. You got Tom Hanks, Gina Davis, Lori Petty, there's Rosie O'Donnell, Bill Pullman, even Madonna was in this. Madonna was looking fine in the early 90s, man. Oh my God, freaking Madonna. But still, it's very interesting. There's a little bit of, feminism involved, how they lifted up the women's baseball league back in the early 40s during World War II. It's really cool, I got a lot of very intricate character development and really fun scenes, It's so strange to see Tom Hanks playing a raunchy douchebag of a character who couldn't give two craps about what he's doing, It's a far cry from the kind of roles we normally associate him with, but still, it's a very good movie. It's timeless. It had an initial budget of $40 million and went on to gross, get this, $132.4 million at the box office, So it was a critical and commercial success, It was actually selected for the National Library of Congress. I'm pretty sure I said that wrong. The National Film Registry. The National Library of Congress. Good one, Chazzy. The National Film Registry, it is honestly one of the greatest American movies of all time, bar none. I'm going to talk a little bit about it and review it, and I was gonna say something else. Oh yes, it was directed by Penny Marshall, who is unfortunately no longer with us, Distributed by Columbia Pictures. Oh God, man, they really can do no wrong, can they? It's awesome, Oh, and the score was by James Newton Howard, so you already know it's a banger of a soundtrack in the background, especially because Madonna contributed to the soundtrack, But yes. Now, before I get into the major crust of it, the plot details, let's take a look at a clip here from this classic cinematic gem. It's pretty nostalgic, huh? I mean, dude, this movie was released in 92, the year that I was born. This movie literally is me. That sounded weird, but anyway, I know I already corrected it, but the music was not composed by James Newton Howard. It was actually Hans Zimmer. I don't know why I said James, he is one of my favorite composers. I love his soundtracks, and I probably mentioned him in many of the movies that I reviewed here, so maybe my brain automatically, brought him in. But anyway, so the plot, right? The movie actually starts with one of the characters, Dottie, meeting up with her old, baseball teammates, in a park while they're playing, running around and stuff, and, it actually takes us to a flashback back to when they actually met, So 1943, World War II, a lot of the men are drafted to the war, so Major League Baseball is at a standstill, so the Chicago Cubs owner decides to bankroll a women's league, so they start looking for players to play, so they can kind of have, some kind of baseball in the absence of the men's league. So, one of the scouts goes to Oregon, sees a softball game, and sees two sisters playing, Dottie and Kit. They're very good together, he tracks them down to their farmhouse and convinces them to play. At first, they're a little, apprehensive, the older sister, Dottie, doesn't want to go, but Kit wants to get the hell out of there, so they decide to take the journey. So they go to Harvey Field in Chicago for the tryout. There are so many other players there. I think there's like about 60 or so players, or maybe even 100. So they meet some new girls there. They meet May, whose nickname is All the Way May, because she's very erotic in that sense. She has a bouncer friend whose name was Doris, right? Doris, who was played by who's played by Rosie O'Donnell. I have the cheat sheet here. I'm just gonna go ahead and cheat and say their names because I already forgot, you know. So we have also, for example, you know, Shirley Baker. There's also Ellie Sue Gotlander. There's Betty Horn, whose nickname is Spaghetti. There's Marla Hooch, you know, Alice Gasper. So they make up the team called the Rockford Peaches, right? And all of them are pretty, you know, because the men do want the league to sell tickets because of how attractive the women are. Marla isn't so much, you know, because she was raised by a single dad, so she looks more like a dude, but still plays really well. So they come together, you know. They are initially managed by, you know, by Jimmy Dugan, who was actually a slugger for the Chicago Cubs, but he became a drunk and stopped playing, you know. The classic athlete, you know, in his prime, gives into alcohol and starts sucking, you know, played by Tom Hanks. At first, he hates them. He treats them very harshly. He doesn't really see them as ball players. So essentially, they kind of manage themselves. Dottie becomes kind of like the captain and leader of the team. So, you know, she's the one who makes all of their lineups, you know, so they can play. However, they actually start playing well and gaining traction, winning games, you know, scoring runs and stuff, you know. So it starts to attract attention of all of the other people, but the attendance is still very low. So they start to do some flashy stuff, you know, like, you know, for example, Dottie catches a ball, you know, while making a split, you know, a lot of people start coming in because it's starting to feel more like a circus, you know. Nobody really takes the girls seriously, but they do play very well. They do have a lot of heart, and eventually they start to bond more and more, you know, and they become a very close-knit team, you know, not just teammates, but friends as well, because all of these are women whose husbands are away fighting in the war, so they really do need the companionship of themselves, you know, of each other, right? So unfortunately, Kit and Dottie have a bit of a sibling rivalry that starts to get more and more intense as the movie goes on. And at one point, you know, tired of living in her older sister's shadow, she actually gets traded to the Racine Bells, you know. Now, baseball in its earlier days had a very, you know, straightforward format with the playoffs and championship and stuff, you know, but the Women's League did play a World Series, you know, and this is a fictionalized account of what happened in real life, so I'm not really entirely sure how it was, you know, but in the movie they do go to the World Series, you know, and at one point, one of the players actually loses her husband, you know, who was Betty, right? She receives a telegram that her husband died in the Pacific War, you know, the Pacific theater of the war, so unfortunately she quits the team. It's a very tear-jerking moment, man, you know. The movie does have its comedic moments, but there are some that really do make you cry. So then eventually Dottie's own husband returns, you know, and she decides to go back home with him, you know, leaving the team, but Jimmy convinces her to stay, you know. He's already like grown accustomed to them. At first he was so harsh and rude and so full of spite, you know, and actually Tom Hanks gave us, you know, one of the most iconic lines in cinema, which is, "Are you crying?" There's no crying in baseball, you know. He attacks them verbally. He's always so crass and spits and stuff, you know, and there are moments where he is a little drunk, but eventually he does take on a more managerial, you know, mature role. But anyway, so he convinces Dottie to come to play in the World Series, and in true World Series form, you know, the team has to win 4 out of 7 games to win the title, you know, and the game actually goes the series goes 3-3 into the 7th game, you know, where after a lot of really intense runs and hits, Kit actually runs home, you know. She scores, she hits the baseball, you know, and she starts running around the plates, you know, takes first, second, and third base and is running home. Her sister Dottie catches the ball, but she rams into her and makes her drop it, and also the Bells win the World Series. I have a personal theory that she intentionally dropped the ball so her younger sister could win and get out of her shadow, you know. Very good ending, very satisfying, you know, everybody's happy, you know, everybody goes home smiling. Then we go back to the present, you know, when all the girls, you know, are now old women, you know, who are married and have kids and grandkids, you know. They go to the inauguration of the Women's Baseball Hall of Fame to see all of their accomplishments, their own photos and stuff. It's really cool. It's very nice. Even one bratty little kid who was named Stillwell, who's one of the players' sons, you know, is now an adult who's there, you know, reminiscing with them. His mom passed away. It's really cool. It's very, very nice, and that's essentially it, you know. And it's all good. Very nice end credits scene with all the players and stuff. Good soundtrack, and that's essentially it, you know. Now let me take a breather here and talk a little bit about the behind the scenes stuff while I show you another clip from the movie.
You're still missing the cutoff man. Now that's something that I would like you to work on before next season.
'Cause it's fresh, fresh, we're having a bash at the old ball game.
just doesn't get old, does it? This movie is timeless, man, honestly. One of the things that I most enjoy, were the feminist themes behind it, because like way back in the day, women were not seen as they are today. There was a lot of sexism and misogynism back in the day, especially in the sporting world. Nobody took them seriously. So seeing the girls, pushing through that, rising above, empowering through, making their runs and getting hits and wins and having fun with it, while also growing closer. There are a few scenes on the bus ride here and there, and they're just, you can see that there is a lot of really good chemistry, with the characters and also of course the actresses. I think it's really nice how they bond over the bus rides, hotel rooms, they even go to a bar at one point. Marla, who is the more unattractive one, is the first one to get hit. She actually gets married and leaves the team, which I think is really cool. I think it's nice how they made that character, who seems to be unlikable and undesirable, actually be the one who gets married, and the cast itself is really well rounded. I really love especially how Tom Hanks portrayed his character, who was Jimmy Dugan, the manager. Very interesting how he because I have seen a lot of Tom Hanks movies, the ones from the 80s, 90s, and from the 2000s onward, where he became like a household name. And his early acting style was very, very different, and in this movie it was very strange, but still, man, I think it was really nice how the character development kind of arched, outwards for him to become more likable. We have Gina Davis, who actually played Dorothy Henson, Dottie, who was the catcher and the assistant manager as well, because Dugan took a while to actually, start at, actually being a manager. Very good performance. I love Gina. She is one of my favorite actresses ever, because she started in so many movies, in the 90s and early 2000s that are like, and also the 80s as well. I think my favorite movie with her in the 80s is The Fly, with Jeff Goldblum. So great actress, love her to death, and she still looks amazing today. I think she's in her 50s, 60s. How old is Gina? I'm gonna look it up right here. She is 68. God damn it, that woman is pushing 70 and still looks dynamite, honestly. And then we have Madonna, who played May, Marta Beto, the center field, who was kind of like the how can I say this without being inappropriate? Kind of like the all the way girl, that's her nickname. She's always a flirt and stuff, and being played by Madonna does actually make sense. We have Lori Petty as Kit Keller, who's the pitcher and Dottie's younger sister, who eventually wins the World Series with the other team. Such a good moment there at the end when the sisters see each other, and they embrace. Despite their differences, Dottie says, "Hey, look, I only have one sister." It's very, very nice, very lukewarm. Rosie O'Donnell as Doris Murphy, who's the third base and kind of like the bouncer and best friend of May. So very good performance there as well. I haven't really seen too many movies with Rosie, but still a classic. You have Ann Ramsey as Helen Haley, who was the first base, and I really don't remember who she was, honestly. Some of the names elude me. And also Megan Cavanagh as Marla Hooch, the second base, and the girl who's a little ugly, a little tomboyish, but still gets married, And then we have Freddie Simpson as Ellen Sue Gotlander, who was the shortstop and the pitcher, right? So probably one of the background characters, the other girls who I just can't remember too well. Tracy Reiner as Betty Horn, whose nickname was Spaghetti. Betty Spaghetti, the left field and the relief pitcher as well. Really cool. And then we have, these names are so intricate, right? Biddy Schramm as Evelyn Gardner, who was the right field, and also the mom of the kid, Stillwell, whose nickname is Angel, even though he's anything but. That kid was annoying as hell. Renee Coleman, as Alice Gaspers, or Skeeter, her nickname. The left field, center field, and the catcher, right? And the thing is that these are all like the main characters, right? We have Ann Cusack as Shirley Baker, who was the left field. And what I think was really cool is that all of these actresses here had another actress portray them, older, in the 80s when they meet up, and they actually look like the younger actresses. You could even swear it's like some of them, for example, like Lynn Cartwright, who played the older Dottie, she does look like Gina Davis. You wonder, maybe it's her own mom, or maybe herself with makeup to make herself look older. But no, they're actual actresses who just happen to resemble the younger ones. I thought it was a really nice touch. Then we also have a few other ones too. We have Robin Knight as Linda Babbitt, the shortstop. Her nickname is Beans. Then we also have, I really don't remember these girls, Patty Pelton as Marbion Wilkinson, who was the second base. These are like the secondary characters who were in the background, I suppose. Kelly Simpkins as Beverly Dixon, who was in the outfield, the outfielder. And also, last but not least, we also have Connie Pounce Taylor as Connie Calhoun, also an outfielder. So these are like, there are other characters as well, like the secondary cast, but I'm not going to talk about that, Fun fact, the director, Penny Marshall, was actually inspired by a documentary called A League of Their Their Own, which was about the Women's Professional Baseball League, you know. She had never heard of the league until she contacted, you know, the people who made a documentary and went on to make the film, you know, produced a screenplay for 20th Century Fox and took the namesake of it for the film. I thought it was really cool, you know. And the casting, there's actually a fun fact about the casting that I want to share with you guys, you know. The director actually liked Demi Moore a little bit more. She wanted her to play the role that Madonna did, but she was pregnant at the time, so, you know, eventually she kind of just said, you know, because Demi dropped out of production, you know, I'm going to go ahead and get Madonna, something of the sort, you know. And there was an actress named Deborah Winger who was cast as Dottie, you know, but then later she's the one who dropped out, you know, and then Gina Davis replaced her. I really suck at this. Anyway, let's take a bit of a breather before I go to the final stretch, which will be talking just a little bit about the production and then my personal take on it. One more clip here.
The manager, Tom Hanks.
Are you crying? There's no crying. There's no crying in baseball.
The catcher, Gina Davis.
What do you say we slip in the back seat and you make a man out of me?
What if I smack you around for a while?
Can't we do both?
The pitcher, Lori Petty.
I made it! I'm a peach! A Rockford peach!
Alrighty, so now let's talk a little bit about the behind the scenes magic, huh? This movie had like entirely practical effects, you know, there was no CGI here, so there were quite a few on-set injuries, you know, like Anne Ramsey, for example, who played Helen. She actually broke her nose while catching a ball in a mitt, you know, it ran into her face, man, that must have been painful as hell. You know, Gina Davis said in an interview that, you know, a lot of the actresses, while they were sliding through the sand, you know, towards a base, they actually peeled the skin, you know, off of their legs. It was painful as hell. There's one scene in the movie that's kind of gnarly, you know, where one of the characters has a red gash, you know, a wound on her leg, and when I saw that scene, I was like, wow, that is some very good makeup, you know, that's some really good practical effects. Except it wasn't. That injury was real. And if you've seen the movie, you definitely remember what I'm talking about, that huge red gash on the... Oh God, man. Ugh. They enjoyed their time working on it, you know, but still, man, just the injuries, those girls are brave as hell, you gotta admit, you know, they really just took one for the team there, you know. But still, that's how you make movies. It's all for our entertainment. I thought it was really interesting though, you know. And one of them, Lori Petty, she actually broke her foot during filming, you know. It's crazy, man. You know, you think it's easy to do a movie like this, but it's not. When there's sports involved, you know, if you don't get stunt doubles, the actors and actresses can really get hurt, you know. It's crazy. But still, so here we go. Now, a few scenes, right? The tryout scene where they actually go to the stadium, you know, in Chicago. That was actually in the Chicago Cubs actual home stadium, you know, Wrigley Field. It was really nice. It's so weird because this movie was made in the 90s, you know, the principal photography started, you know, in the 90s, but like it was the movie was set in the 40s, man. It's so freaking weird, you know. So now the home games for the Rockford Peaches were actually filmed in League Stadium in Huntingburg, Indiana, right? So the championship game, you know, for the World Series was filmed at Bosse Field in Evansville, Indiana. So seems like a lot of the stadiums used were from the Indiana area, you know, and Wrigley Field for the Trouts, which does kind of make sense, you know, given what the movie was like. And, you know, there were some other games that were filmed, you know, in Ontario, California at J. Littleton Park, you know, here and there, you know. So also the houses where the actual players lived in Henderson, Kentucky, sorry, was also present there, you know. We see the exterior of the house, you know, when the members are there driving off and stuff. It's really cool. And the final week of shooting, you know, was actually in Copperstown, New York. And get this, 65 members of the original Rockford Peaches, you know, the original AAAG PBL league members were there, you know. So a lot of the extras that you see in the movie are actual real players, you know, who were actually part of the Women's Professional League, which I think is so awesome, man. I just really love it, you know. They appeared especially prominently in the scenes where they were recreating the Hall of Fame induction, you know. Thought it was really awesome, which actually happened in 1988, you know, right here. So yes, man. Also, the soundtrack was released, and one of my favorite songs is actually by Madonna, This Used to Be My Playground, which was unfortunately, even though it was in the closing credits, you know, a very nice ending credits scene there, it was not included in the soundtrack because of contractual reasons, you know, but still, just one of my favorite Madonna songs ever because of the movie, you know. So, in the end, man, what did I think about A League of Their Own? I think it's very, very lukewarm. It's very down to earth, you know. It is honestly one of my favorite movies ever, whether or not it's about sports or not, you know. Comedy, drama, sports comedy, sports drama, whatever. It transcends all genres to become one of my favorite movies ever because, I don't know, it's very quirky, it's comedic, but at the same time, there is a sense of realism, there is dramatic tension, the character development really just overarches, you know, with the narrative. I think it's so awesome, the way that everybody interacts and grows more, especially Jimmy, you know, the manager, like, everything comes together to create a very timeless and unique story, you know, a female empowerment, you know, and women growing in the sports world and showing that they don't need their men to be successful, you know, just great at how they can play just as good, if not even better than the men, how they go on to, one of the teams wins the World Series, you know, in just, you know, down to a 7-game outing. It's just freaking crazy, you know. I think it's really nice. Critics really panned it, you know. I think it was actually very, very loved by even the toughest of critics, you know. Has a very bittersweet charm to it. There are moments where you do feel like crying. It's freaking crazy. The personalities of the players unfolding, everything just seems so natural, you know, like how Jimmy and Dottie kind of play off of each other as well, how they are kind of like both managers but in a different way with their own unique styles. I think it's really nice how everybody interacts. So yeah, man, it's freaking crazy, you know. So yes, women's liberation, everything about it. I'm trying to get see if the movie won any awards here, but doesn't really seem like there's anything there, you know. But still, yeah, whatever. Very, very nice film, you know. It's a mixture of serious and comedy. It's lighter than air. It feels very lukewarm to watch, you know. Even when Dottie's husband comes home and he continues to encourage her pursuing baseball, you know, the themes are just so rampant as well. There was a 20th anniversary Blu-ray edition that was released, I think, in 2012, but I didn't watch it. There is a spin-off series on Amazon Prime, you know, Prime Video, which is the same name, A League of Their Own, you know. I'm going to watch that and review it later. It's going to be really cool. So yeah, man, I guess that's all I can really say, you know. I'm going to end this by giving my very sincere and deserved rating of a 10 out of 10. A League of Their Own is a perfect movie, flawless in the execution, everything, you know, from the filming, the pacing, the cinematography, the characters, you know, just all of the positive traits coming together to create what I consider to be a timeless classic of American cinema. There's a reason why it's in the National Film Registry, man. I love this movie so much. The ensemble cast, I wonder if Tom Hanks and Gina Davis ever did another movie together. I'm gonna look that up later because they did have such good on-screen chemistry. Loved it so much. But that's it, guys. I'm gonna wrap this up here. Sorry if I stumbled on my words a little bit. This is my first movie review in a long time, you know, and yeah, just try to follow the script here. But anyway, so that is it. There was something else that I was going to comment, but I don't remember what it was. But yeah, that's it. So if you guys happen to like this video, please go ahead and give it a like and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell too so you can know exactly what time I upload it. It's all good. Drop a comment below that. Let me know if you've seen this movie, if you liked it or not. If you haven't seen it, you know, congrats on all of the spoilers. You're an idiot. You should have watched it first, but still, thank you for the view time anyway. So this is Chazzy signing out for now. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Roll the final clip if there is one, and then the outro screen.
What if my uniform bursts open and oops, my bosoms come flying out?
You think there are men in this country who ain't seen your bosoms?
A League of Their Own.
All right. God knows we have a game. It's not like any of this helps, believe me.
Directed by Penny Marshall.